Hey guys, welcome back. I have a really easy DIY project to share with you today. We're going to be making a no-sew pillow, and this is what I call my Scandinavian chic fringe pillow. So it's got a little bit of boho to it, but it's fully inspired by Scandinavian design, which I'm obsessed with Scandinavian interior design and decor. So depending on how much fringe you want to make, I made a lot of fringe all the way around, especially on the sides. I did it even longer, but I love how it turned out. And the fringe, you know, it does add a little bit of that boho vibe, but Scandinavian design, it does incorporate a lot of texture, a lot of natural earthy textures, and a lot of neutrals. So I chose a linen cotton blend fabric. It has a lot of texture to it, and I bought this at Joann's. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started making our Scandinavian chic fringe pillow. We're gonna need a pillow insert, 1 yard of fabric of your choice, and it can be any color you want, any type of fabric you like, as long as it has a weave where you're able to pull strings out of it. So 1 yard of fabric should be plenty to cover most pillow inserts, unless you're doing like a giant pillow or something, then you might need to adjust for that, maybe 1.25 yards, or you know, just adjust for whatever size you're doing, but 1 yard will cover most just fine for this project. And then you're gonna need a pair of scissors, measuring tape, and most importantly, a seam ripper. So the fabric we're going to be cutting into 3 pieces. It's going to have a front for our cover and 2 pieces for the back. So to figure out what size we need to cut our fabric, I just measure from seam to seam. So seam to seam. And mine is it's almost 20 inches. So I just called it 20 inches. And then I just add a few extra inches on each side, from 3 to 4 inches. A little longer, like the longer you can make it, the better. So if you can aim more for like 4 inches, that would be great. So I'm just measuring this way, and I'm not gonna bother measuring the long way because I already know that there's plenty of fabric on both ends. So I'm just leaving that, whatever that is. I'm not gonna be trimming that at all. So I'm working in the very middle of the yard of fabric, and then the ends are gonna be for the back. And so I'm just gonna double check those to make sure I'll have enough for that. Okay, so I got about 15 inches on both sides is what I should have. Yep. So I took a couple of pins and just marked out where I would be cutting, and I'm just gonna flip this over before I cut and just make sure that that's gonna give me enough coverage on the back. So measure twice, cut once, right? So I'm just measuring again, just making sure that as I lay that over my pillow that everything looks right, that I'm gonna be cutting in the right place, and I'm gonna have enough fabric for both pieces on the back and the front. And then make your cuts. So I've got my pins laid out here just to make sure I cut in a straight line. Okay, I'm just gonna take the back pieces and just move those out of the way for now. Set those up there for now. Okay, I'm just taking those pins out that I was using for measuring, and I'm just gonna work on the front part. And this is a seam ripper I'm using. I'm sure they probably have different models of it, but it's just a real basic one. So all you do is take your seam ripper and you hook pieces of the thread and just pull it out. So this is the part where you're gonna need a little bit of patience, but see how easy those threads are just pulling out of there? So once you kind of get it started, you're able to just pull them right out of there. So as we're pulling out those horizontal threads, you can see our trim start to form there. And you're gonna go up however many inches you allowed. So that's totally up to you, however much you allowed on your fabric. So your pillow seam is gonna go to, say, right about here. And if you left, 3 to 4 inches, then that's about how long your trim is gonna be. So you're just gonna keep working until you get up to that point. Okay, I'm gonna keep working, and once I get done with this side, I'll be back and I'll show you guys how it looks. Okay, I want to show you guys a shortcut to speed up making the fringe. What I like to do is just find the middle. So I'll just part my fringe here and loosen up a few threads, 4 to 5 threads at a time, or however many you can get a hold of. And then snip those. And then go to the end, grab your threads that you're gonna be pulling out. And I like to use my seam ripper just to help separate those threads so I can grab them, get a hold of them. And you might be able to pull 2 at a time depending on your fabric if it's strong enough. This fabric, this linen, it's pretty fine, so if I try to pull more than 1, it can kind of end up breaking. Like, see, that one broke, so there's part of it still in there. And also, this is really textured, so it tends to, the threads will kind of catch on themselves because there is so much texture there. So I've done this on different types of fabric, and it just depends on what kind you choose. And then we'll just go to the other side here separate out a few and pull them out one by one. So start with the threads that are closest to you and work your way back, because if you try to pull a thread not in order, it'll be harder to pull out because it's more locked in and the thread will likely just break. So just pull the threads in order as you work your way back. So I finished making the fringe all the way around our front piece of fabric for the pillowcase, and now I'm going to work on one of the back pieces. So we have two of these exactly the same. This is another way that can be a shortcut to getting the fringe done. Just hook from the middle, one piece at a time, one thread at a time, and pull out from both sides. Make sure you save all your threads too. Don't throw this away, because you can upcycle this. You can do all kinds of things with it. What I'm going to be doing is I plan on making some faux fur pom-poms for throws, you know, to sew onto the edges of throws. And so I'm going to use this as the filling for that. So always save any, you know, any extra bits of stuff that you have, because those come in handy for later projects. So both back pieces are exactly like this. We're leaving the top alone and we're only making fringe around these other three sides. And once in a while you might get a thread that kind of catches either on the fringe side or on the sealed side of the fabric. And don't worry about that, just pull that right out there. And if you need a little knot or something, just use your seam ripper and just kind of pull that knot apart. Okay, I'm all done making the fringe. There's my front piece and two back pieces, and I'm just gonna move the back pieces out of the way for now. And we're gonna lay down the front piece with the right side of the fabric, the nice side of the fabric, lay that down. So you're gonna be looking at the underneath side of your fabric, and then take your two back pieces, and then lay your two back pieces down with the nice side of the fabric facing up. And then that other back piece is gonna slightly overlap, and just adjust your fabric so the fringe lines up. And now we're just gonna tie our fringe all the way around, and that's what connects our two pillow pieces together, well, our three pillow pieces together. So when you're tying your fringe together, it's up to you how big of pieces you wanna take. I'm gonna take about 1/4 inch pieces, so right about like that I think should be good. And before you start tying, just make sure your fabric is lined up so you're even on both sides. And then I'll go ahead and tie that in just a regular overhand knot. Okay, so it's just a regular knot, and just snug that right up to the fabric. And then I'll just check both sides, make sure it's snugged up on both sides how it should be. And just a tip when you're making your knots, it's a good idea to have the front part of your pillow cover facing you, so facing upwards. That way you can kind of adjust the knots and make sure that they look pretty from the front. So I like to just make sure that they're, you know, in line and they're all kind of uniform, or as uniform as possible. Okay, our pillow cover is all done, all the fringe is made, and you can see my fringe on the sides are a little longer than the fringe on the top and the bottom, just because that was the actual size of my piece of fabric I was working with, and so I just left it like that, and I actually like it. Okay, let's put our pillow insert in here. Okay, I seriously think I love this already. Let's see. Okay, let's try this chair, see how it looks. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, I love that texture of the linen. Oh, I don't know if I got a close-up of this part of the fabric though, but where we overlapped, this was the edge, the outer edge of the fabric. So it already had kind of that natural seam that they do on the edge of the fabric. So I just wanted to mention that that is why I used the ends of the fabric for the overlap there. I'm so happy how this turned out. Oh my goodness, I think I'm gonna have to make more of these. But that linen fabric, it just adds so much texture. I think I want to do a set of these for our bed now. I might have to go back to Joann's and get more fabric, more linen fabric. Okay, I've got 3 quick tips though that I want to share with you guys if you are going to do this project. One is invest in the right fabric. Invest in the fabric that you really like. Don't try to get out cheap with the fabric. You want fabric that's going to be worth your time, because you're going to be putting time into making this project. So definitely, you know, use something that you are really going to like the feel of. The other thing is invest in a good pillow insert that has the right feeling and density that you like, because I have done pillows in the past where I used either like a polyfill that wasn't so great, or I just tried to get out cheaper and I used maybe a cheaper insert and it was just kind of like, it just didn't have like any movement or cuddliness to it, you know? So pick out a nice pillow insert that has a good give to it, or whatever sort of feeling you want to have. You know, like this one is literally just a bed pillow. It's just the smallest size bed pillow, so you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. And the third tip is when you go to tie your fringe, take your time with that. Don't rush through it, because what can happen is if you get tempted to try to rush that part of the process and you're grabbing larger pieces or larger sections of fringe and tying them together, it's going to create little gaps in between those. So that's why I went with just taking like, you know, right around 1/4 inch sections of the fringe and tying those, and it creates a nice tight seamless connection with your fabric pieces. So there's no gaps or anything, it's just a real tight weave around the perimeter. So yeah, pick out a quality insert, quality fabric, because the goal of your end result is to feel like you have a quality item, you know? You don't want to feel like it's a cheap DIY at the end of it. You want to feel like the work you put into it resulted in something that is beautiful, you know, for your home. And I love to see what you guys make too. So if you do this project, definitely feel free to tag me or tweet me and show me pictures of what you make too. I love to see what you guys are up to also. So, all right, I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for watching, and happy pillow making, fringy boho pillow making. And I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.